Hello, everyone. I thought I would review Bram Stoker's Dracula, which I just got as a steelbook because it was $20 on Amazon, and I thought, wow, that's a good price because a lot of times steelbooks can be quite expensive, and this was a limited edition. So I'm glad I purchased it while I had the chance. And some people may have gotten an impression from that video I did about Dracula not being a love story that I don't like Bram Stoker's Dracula, which isn't true. There's a lot about it that I do like. And I would probably like it more if it didn't say Bram Stoker's Dracula, if it was called something else. But because it purports to be faithful to the book, I'm a little more I'm obviously going to be a little more skeptical than if it wasn't trying to be. And so, but there's a lot of it that I do like. In fact, I'm just a huge fan of Gothic horror, which is why I often will like Gothic horror even when it's bad, because I just love the genre that much. And, but there's a lot about it that I do like. I love the atmosphere of the film. I, um, I love a lot of the cinematography. I love the shots of the ocean, the sea, the mountains, all of that I feel is very atmospheric and really sets the mood. And and it even captures some images from the book, I would say, very well. So there's a lot about it that I do like. Um, but there's also this is one of those films that's just a very mixed bag, given the fact that there's a lot I love and there's a lot I don't like. And so it creates a very it creates it's a very mixed bag, this film, because there's some aspect, because it's not just like some aspects of it, didn't like other aspects. No, this is love some aspects, didn't care for other aspects. But again, because I love Gothic horror, I will still watch films like this, even if there's some things that I wish they had done differently. For one thing, just the love story is not accurate to the book. A lot of people think Dracula is a love story. It isn't. At no point in the book is it even hinted that Mina is attracted to Dracula romantically. She does become somewhat addicted to drinking blood in the book, but she feels really bad about it, and she's guilty over it. And there's no hint that she's in love with Dracula. She's a victim of Dracula. Um, Similar thing with Lucy is that I really like the actress who played Lucy in Bram Stoker's Dracula. But at the same time, I felt that she was not written correctly because they create Lucy as somewhat of a lecherous. They depict her as a lecherous woman who is almost willingly wants to become a vampire, which in the book that is not true. Yes, she is a bit more flirtatious than Mina, but at the same time, um, she's not promiscuous in any sense, and so I don't. And she fights for the longest time, um, becoming a vampire, and so I felt that that was not depicted properly. Although I will say that the um, the scene when she confronts them in the tomb, I think that was done well. I think that whole sequence was done well because at that point Lucy was very much like a predatory vampire, and I feel that aspect of it was done well. In fact, that scene probably is one of the more faithful scenes to the book. That scene in the tomb where she says, "I'm hungry for you, Arthur." That scene was, I thought, done very well, and so I credit them for doing that scene well. And but there are other aspects too. Like, I'm not a huge fan of the casting of Keanu Reeves and Winona Ryder. For obvious reasons, Keanu Reeves does a terrible British accent, probably one of the worst British accents I've seen in film. And Winona Ryder, she's sometimes hard to pronounce her name, but I like her as an actress. There's a lot of things I like her in. I thought she was better in The Crucible. She fit that part better. But to me, she doesn't really have the feel of the character of Mina, and she doesn't really have what I would call a strong heroine air about her, um, Winona Ryder. But so I wouldn't. I think they could have gotten a better an actress who fit that character more. Probably my favorite Mina, or technically she's called Lucy, but it's the Mina character. There's this whole thing about in film adaptations how they often switch and go between back and forth between Mina and Lucy, but probably my favorite Mina character is the one in the 1979 version of Dracula. I thought she was very strong, very independent, like Mina should be, and that Mina is in some ways a very independent and liberated woman in the best sense of the word. And I felt that was depicted very well, I thought, in the 79 version of Dracula, even though with the Frank Langella version, even though there are other things about it that I don't like. And I think they should have had an actress who was a little more like that. Also, I have mixed feelings about Anthony Hopkins because on one hand, I think he brings a presence to Van Helsing, but because I've seen him as Hannibal Lecter, everything he does is sinister. And I do think Van Helsing should have more of like a kinder, gentler air about him. But I think he works as Van Helsing. I think if they had to go with one major star instead of casting actors who are just right for the characters, I probably would have gone with Anthony Hopkins. Gary Oldman is a mixed bag. Like on one hand, I like on one hand, I think that he's a good character actor, but at the same time, I feel like they should have gotten someone who had more of an aristocratic presence. Personally, if I were casting Dracula, I would try to get someone who was actually maybe from that part of the world, who isn't just pretending to be, and has more of that aristocratic, and who's a little bit taller than Gary Oldman, because I feel like Dracula does need to be tall, and for example, he's shorter than Keanu Reeves in certain scenes, and so that makes him kind of like less intimidating, and I felt like he needs to be more intimidating. Again, Gary Oldman's fine. He does the job perfectly well. He's a very good actor. I just feel like I probably would have gone a different direction with that. But he works perfectly well, and if everything else about the film that I mentioned was fixed, but Gary Oldman was still there, it would be a great Dracula adaptation in my eyes, even with him in the part. So he doesn't ruin the film or spoil the film by any means. And again, like I said, I love the atmosphere. I like the fact that they included the character of Quincy Morris, which often is not included in these adaptations, and also Arthur as well, and Cary Elwes, who could have been in a parody version. I think he was a good Arthur, even though it's a limited role. Renfield, again, has limited screen time. I wish they would have done the scene from the book when Renfield is dying after he's killed by Dracula, and he gives the speech about rats, but this time in context when Renfield is dying. That's never been done either, because Renfield gives that speech not... Dwight Frye gives the speech in Dracula, but in that version, he's talking about it gleefully. Whereas in the book, he's giving that speech, but it's more of a sad kind of speech as he's dying. And I felt like they could have done more with Renfield in this, but he had a limit. I thought, the Renfield was pretty good. The actor was. I just felt like he wasn't used properly. And so I act like I'm not enjoying the film, but I do, and I appreciate the fact that the film overall sticks to the plot structure of the book. But there's enough. Oh, I also wanted to say one thing I wanted to say before this video gets too long is that I really loved the brides as well. The presence of the brides. I thought that those scenes were done very well, and especially the scene in the castle where where in the book Bram Stoker describes the brides, their eyes being like jewels or something similar to that. I thought those scenes were very well done. I have no complaints about the brides, and but no, there's a lot about the film that I like, and I appreciate the fact that it stayed faithful to the overall plot structure, but they changed enough about it, particularly the characters of Mina and Dracula, that it's not ultimately faithful to the entire spirit of the book, even though they get a lot right. So it's a very mixed bag, but I still enjoy the film immensely.